What up, y'all? It's Kasim with your daily Google News, and Google just went full on Amazon. In case you're not aware, Amazon has web crawlers going out and stalking things on the internet in order to determine where the Amazon products are priced and where they need to be priced in order to be competitive, which is freaking brilliant because it not only builds brand authority in everybody's eyes on Amazon's behalf, but it also gives Amazon the ability to completely annihilate its primary competitors. I don't know the depth or breadth at which this is done. I don't know how many of Amazon products or if there are partner products or any of those things, but I do know that the crawling takes place because there are case studies that talk about the impacts that has from an economic perspective. Super interesting. Here's what's even more interesting is Lord Google just rolled out a similar program. So this went to one of our larger advertisers. We want to offer you an opportunity to be part of the private beta for the Automate Discount feature. This is interesting, y'all, and frickin' brilliant. Automate discounts allows merchants to effectively and seamlessly discount products to improve business goals. So what you do is you instruct Google to discount shopping ads based on a predefined ad set range, and then Google algorithmically considers market prices, price elasticity, seasonality trends, and other factors to optimize product discounts for conversions and profit. So what Google is doing is exactly what Amazon's doing. They're comparing your prices, but this is where it gets really funky because they're comparing your prices inside of Google's own ecosystem. Would not only be my assumption, but I think that's the only way that this could possibly work. So what that means is Google it's price fixing. Google is setting the prices for multiple advertisers, and whichever advertisers opted into this, which incidentally ends up being the larger advertisers, the ones with higher spends, and I'll show you why that is in a second. Google is effectively prioritizing their ads, and not just from a visibility perspective, but now from a pricing perspective. So it's scary to consider, because if you were to cascade this across, let's say every competitor shown gave Google this allowance, now they really have the ability to impact where the market goes. And they also have the ability, I think, to impact how much money you make. Because who's to say that Google's just going to discount the price based off of the market? We may see Google discounting prices based off of user engagement, what Google has been able to identify as a user's acceptable threshold for spend. So you have to consider that the competition isn't just it's not just lateral. It's not just the other people also selling this product. It also is potentially whatever predefined range Google has identified as their more or less their threshold for pain, which is highly speculative, but also I think it's intelligent prognostication, because Google does that, right? Like, we know it optimizes from a user perspective and always has, organically and via paid. And so you would have to assume, you'd be stupid not to assume that Google isn't doing something similar here. So really, really interesting, kind of scary. And I hate to, y'all, I know I'm Chicken Little. I hate to keep playing Chicken Little with you, but somebody has to, first of all. Second of all, we've seen enough of Google's little gerrymandering to justify something in the way of like a jaded approach. So I think this is brilliant. I think if you have an opportunity to participate in the beta, you absolutely should. But then I also think we should walk into this eyes wide open. We are making a deal with the devil. You are basically telling Google, yeah, set the price to wherever you want to within this range if you think that's going to earn me the purchase. Well, remember, Google is doing that over and above another advertiser who's also paying Google for the visibility. So if that's not price fixing, man, I don't know what is. It's by definition. So it's just going to be an interesting adjustment to the ecosystem. All of that said, what was the other thing that I saw? Okay, so they've got a couple of one-sheeters that I'll share with you. One was actually two sheets. And then, I guess it's not called a one-sheeter, so I should edit that out. I'm not going to. I'll just sound stupid and y'all can make fun of me. The other thing that's interesting too is there's a Shopify app. So I'm wondering whether or not this private beta is only available to people on Shopify, or they just know that this particular client is on Shopify and they're adjusting it that way. The former would make more sense to me, that they actually limit it from a CMS perspective because it's just easier for Google to run the beta. They do reference, and I'll show you what it is that I'm talking about. In their one-sheeter, they reference the advertiser needing to dedicate engineering resources. So here they say 20% increase at the same gross profit per ad spend. So I think what that means is even though your profitability is going down, so too is your ad spend, because the adjustments, I don't know, might impact the efficacy of the advertising. I'm making that up. This word elasticity is hard for me, by the way. I've had to reshoot this video 2 times because I just can't get it out. Optimize product discounts for conversions. So generate incremental conversion. What was the really important one that I want to show you? Drive channel-based impact. I think this is really interesting to begin to meditate on. Google, again, think about what this just said. Google is trying to optimize the value of its own inventory. And it's using all of its inventory in a freaking brilliant fashion. Instead of siloing things the way that they used to, they're not giving us a choice. They're just like, here's everything, and you effectively have to use it if you want to use any of our Wicked Ninja Smart tools. And, interestingly, and egg on my face, because it's working in our favor. It's working to our benefit. And as much as I hate losing control, I see the value in allowing the machine to do what the machine does. Let's go take a look at, here we go. So, channel-based pricing, and so we're going to define minimums and regular price range. I would be really interested to see it, how often Google maintains the minimum and how often they're dipping into, potential discounts. Here we go. 10,000 clicks and 400 orders per week. That's not insignificant. So you need to be spending a pretty significant amount of money. I mean, 10,000 clicks and 400 orders per week that's not a small advertiser. I've got clients that couldn't fulfill on that from a product perspective. So that's what sucks. I mean, gosh, like if you're a smaller merchant and you're going up against one of these larger merchants that just has more breadth, now you're not going to be able to participate in this beta, which this gets really interesting because that puts more pressure on a downward pricing trend. All that means is all the small advertisers that are actually bearing the blow here are going to have to discount their price to, effectively bottom dollar in order to make sure that they don't constantly get tapped out every single time Google decides that it's time to discount. So that'll be interesting to see. And I guess it really depends on an industry perspective. I think there's going to be some industries that are really heavily impacted, and then some industries that don't feel this at all. And it depends on how many advertisers opt into this. This is so. If you have the opportunity to be first mover here, take it. Take it, because first of all, you're going to benefit, I think, pretty significantly. Google tends to reward its beta users, and then second of all, even though you potentially could see some margin loss, even though Google says same gross profit, you could potentially see some margin loss, but you'd rather capture the customers than be on the receiving end of whatever's going to happen, which again is going to be kind of downward pricing pressure. That's as much as I'll say about that. So I think that's a pretty interesting threshold. Hopefully they open it up. Who knows? They've had a bunch of really weird thresholds in the past that have been, changed, removed, added, deleted, etc., custom audiences, things like that. So the hope would be that this threshold is just during the beta, and then at some point it's made available to small advertisers, because at least then it would be a more competitive ecosystem. The other thing that I think is going to get really important to do is, if you're an e-commerce store owner, inhibit people's ability to compare apples to apples if you can't compete on price. I'll say that again. If you can't compete on price, if you compete on price, great. This is kind of to your benefit. If you can't, or if you don't want to, then there's things that you could do to make sure that, and you'll see Amazon sellers that do this phenomenally well. Bundling. Bundling is huge. I just bought a new laptop, and for the laptop I wanted to get a case because I'm OCD and neurotic, and so there was these little hard shell cases, and I could compare hard shell case A, B, and C to each other. But then there were some really smart merchants that threw in a keyboard cover and a screen protector, and the little camera blocky thingy for privacy, and now all of a sudden they get to hide some of their margin. And even though it was a little bit more money, I got all this extra stuff, and it became far more difficult to compare apples to apples. So if you're a merchant and you're in this position, make it really difficult for people to compare apples to apples. And by the way, one of the best ways to do that, by the way, is adding a digital product. If you add a digital product, my favorite thing to do is tutorials and training. If you're selling, I mean, name it, cooking paraphernalia, you have like a really awesome, session on, you've got the little bake pans or whatever, and you've got a free 2-hour course from some, pseudo-famous influencer chef that's showing them how to make the muffins or whatever. I don't bake. Which wouldn't be hard to produce. And these influencers, by the way, they're so cheap. It's unbelievable. You can get somebody with, 500,000 Instagram followers, and they'll do something for you for $1,000. It's unreal. And, now you have a face, and now you get to, now you're not just buying the cooking stuff. Now you're buying the cooking stuff and a tutorial. And it doesn't necessarily need to even be a tutorial. You can try to find a way to bundle things. Again, just inhibit people's ability to compare apples to apples. And the more that you can do that, the more you're protecting yourselves from things like this. You want to protect yourself from the commoditization of the market. It can actually hurt you a little bit from an optimization standpoint, depending on what you're going with from a scale perspective. But if you're in the position that I just stated, I actually think that that's the lesser of two evils. So for what that's worth, I would inhibit Google's ability to give you a perfect comparison. And the other thing that you can do too is you can get really creative with your media. And I know that sounds like a nit, but it's not. It's not. Make sure you have really strong lifestyle images. Make sure you have multiple images of your product in different angles. Make sure you're, doing things like zooming in on like ingredients or materials. That alone, even if you're a more expensive product, can help. Significantly, by the way, y'all. I'm not talking about like a fraction of a percentage increase. I've seen it with some of our advertisers where we start running ads for products and because the media is crap, the conversions are crap, and then the minute they add better media, right through the roof. And there are people offering the same products at lesser prices. This happens a lot with dropshippers. We don't take a lot of dropshippers. Generally speaking, dropshippers don't have the margins. And this, by the way, is going to make that even worse because everybody's using the same damn product, the same damn titles, the same damn images. Google's going to be able to read them all. Go to whichever one is willing to offer it at the cheapest price, which, by the way, will probably be a loss leader because so many people are using dropship products in order to do list building now at break even. So this is a major blow to dropshippers as far as I'm concerned. But with dropshippers, the ones that win are the ones that will actually purchase the products themselves, even though they're not doing their own fulfillment, and then build media content around those products because now it doesn't look like everything else looks. So this is it's such a we're here now forever. You have to invest. Like there's no more easy button. There's no more just throwing a bunch of crap on a Shopify store and running traffic to it. Like that was cool when it worked. But you kind of have to go all in. You have to go all in on stuff. You have to be willing to like write really solid product titles and descriptions. And I can't tell you how many times I'm on the phone and I feel for them, by the way. So if you're one of these people, forgive me. But I get on some of these sales calls, especially for higher ticket or higher SKU count e-commerce stores. And we're like, well, you need a GTIN code for every product, and we need, solid titles and descriptions and imagery. And they're like, we have 10,000 products or 100,000 products or whatever. That's just not possible. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I understand. I don't know how I would do that either. And then I'm also like, you're going to lose. You're going to lose because there's somebody out there that's selling that exact same product who's willing to do that work. And maybe it's because they have smaller SKUs. And maybe it's just because, they have more money and more people power or whatever. But this is another reason that we potentially need to niche down. So a couple of things. You have to honor the pricing. This is interesting, though. A minimum of 30 minutes during the user session and 48 hours after the product is in the basket. I have to imagine their plugin is going to monitor that because I don't know how we would do that otherwise. And then this was interesting, too. Commit engineering resources and share data with Google. Fine. So if you have the opportunity to opt into this pilot, here's their one sheet, by the way. Case study, niceshops.com. Should call them and see who's running their ads. Born in Austria, blah, 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 who cares, et cetera, et cetera. But 26% increase in conversion rate, 56% increase in conversions at same gross profit per ad spend. Same gross profit per ad spend. Y'all, someone who maths better than I do, help explain this to me. How are we getting the same gross profit per ad spend if we're discounting the profits by a significant enough margin to change our conversion rates? I don't, that, there's something funky going on there. Maybe I'm just not seeing this properly. There's something else I wanted to show you. What was it? Yeah, this is it. This is great. Roland Fink. As pressure on our prices is constantly on the rise, Google's automated discount pilot came at the right time. So all Roland is saying, hey, the problem that we are facing has gotten worse, and Google's going to make it worse, but at least we're on the right side of that trend line, which I think is interesting. So automated discounts by Google. Google is going to help discount your product on your behalf based off of what it's seeing in the competitive ecosystem. And we have no idea how it's going to work because I got an invite today, so we're obviously going to opt in and play with it. But gosh, the other thing that's a little frustrating is this isn't something an agency can do for you, right? I mean, maybe they can help, but I don't know what your margins are, I don't know where your prices are, and I do not want to be responsible for setting that. So this is something that you need to do, and an agency can make mild recommendations or provide some instructions or whatever. So hope that's helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much for all y'all that watch and comment and share. Really appreciate you in this little community that we're building, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day, so if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.